SNP faced troubles regrading independence process as leaders frightened UK power on global stage. Nicola Sturgeon has been told her party will never achieve Scottish independence if it continues to obsess over the European Union. The new year is likely to bring about renewed calls for Scotland to hold a second independence push, with the previous vote approaching its 8th anniversary. According to some critics, the SNP is held back most by its political agenda beyond that of supporting independence. The SNP may still, after a difficult 2 years, hold a firm position in both Holyrood, the Scottish Parliament, and in Westminster. But Tom Harris argues that the party is unlikely to achieve its dream of tearing Scotland from the rest of the UK. This is due in part to the party's obsession with the EU, which it would like Scotland rejoin if it left the UK. He wrote, "The main reason independence has not yet made the breakthrough expected by Remainers and Rejoiners across the land is one that few of them would be willing to acknowledge. Scots in general, even those who regret our departure from the EU, regard the 300-year-old social, political and economic union as more important and more precious than a 50-year-old trade deal." Mr. Harris is a former Labour MP. He also led the Scottish Brexit campaign. Prime Minister Boris Johnson ruled out a second Scottish independence referendum in November. He called the 2014 vote a once-in-a-generation event. Mr. Johnson said, "I don't think people in this country think referendums are very wonderful for harmony. We had one in 2014, the British people, the people of Scotland, were told in 2014 that that was a once-in-a-generation event." Asked if he would grant another vote, he said, "No, I don't want to have one." Ms. Sturgeon criticised the decision to block a second referendum as unsustainable. Despite being told Scotland will not be given the option to leave the UK, the SNP leader has continued over the past year to push for independence. Even at COP26, when world leaders came together to put climate action above political action, Ms. Sturgeon was accused of pushing the case for Scotland to move ahead by itself. While the SNP may not be able to push Scotland towards independence in the coming years, Mr. Harris argued that it is likely to keep its hold of the country. He wrote, "There is absolutely no prospect of her party's grip on Scottish politics being loosened any time soon. The biggest threat to her comes from her own party members, who are not prepared to wait for a whole generation before achieving their dream of separation from the UK." Meanwhile, inside the country, hospitality bosses tonight accused Nicola Sturgeon and Mark Drakeford of pressing the panic button on tough new COVID curbs as frustration grows over inconsistent rules across Britain. Scotland's First Minister has faced a backlash over her latest restrictions, which will effectively ban football fans from games, while also ruling out large Hogmanay celebrations, limiting pubs to table service only and shutting nightclubs. Similar measures have been introduced in Wales as well, despite the release of studies suggesting Omicron is less likely to lead to serious illness than previous variants. Their approach contrasts with that taken in England, where Health Secretary Sajid Javid this morning hailed the reassuring new data that suggested Omicron presented a 40% lower risk of overnight hospital admissions than other variants. He also confirmed no new restrictions would be announced in England until at least next week. Liz Cameron, Chief Executive of the Scottish Chambers of Commerce, said Ms. Sturgeon's new restrictions will be another hammer blow for employers and Scotland's economy. Dr. Cameron added, "Businesses across Scotland, who have been doing everything they can to keep their employees and customers safe, will be bitterly disappointed by these further restrictions. Some businesses and sectors will view this update as the equivalent of receiving a lump of coal in their Christmas stocking, further compounding the downturn in trade they have experienced in the crucial run-up to the festive period."